Hello, everybody. Good morning. It is Wednesday. What is the date today? I never know the date. Wednesday, June 7th, 10:30 a.m. in the morning here in the Ultimate Baby Sleep Group. And what we are doing today is going through setbacks, sleep setbacks, milestones, and how they are linked and how they happen. Now, for those of you who are new to the group, every Wednesday, I come in and I do a live video addressing a certain topic. We used to post the question threads on Mondays. Now we're posting them on Fridays. Whenever you see it, it's either going to be Mondays or Fridays, irrelevant. But there's a certain theme. And the reason we do this is so I can go through the questions, look over what your issues are, help you, point you in the right direction. And that way, each video that we end up posting has a certain theme instead of just like random questions all over the place. It helps you a lot. And then you can refer back to them at a later date when you have questions. So this week's topic is milestones and sleep setbacks. Now, a lot of you asked some questions unrelated to the thread and the topic this week. If we have time at the end, I will try to go in and answer you or maybe do a little bit of a Q&A session. In any case, I think we are well overdue for a live Pick My Brain Q&A session. So I'll let you all know we're going to do that probably later on in the week where it's outside of the normal question thread. A few of you have reached out and asked me to do that who've been in the group for a while. We did one a few months back, just so that way you can ask me a question about anything, not necessarily under the specific topic that we are working on. So I'll keep you posted. We'll do that soon, hopefully. And if, in general, you have other questions that you do want to ask me, always tag me in the group. Tag everyone else here. It's a great group and it's growing and we're here to help you with your sleep, okay? So before we get nitty-gritty talking about milestones developmentally, let's talk about first why that happens, what those are. And then we can get nitty-gritty discussing the details as to how that really affects sleep, why that happens, and what you can do to ensure your child continues sleeping well despite milestones and developmental occurrences that are inevitable, because welcome to babies growing. It's a good thing. Okay, so number one, let's talk about what developmental milestones are. When your baby learns how to flip over from back to stomach, when your baby can sit up, can't get back down, can stand up, climb out of the crib, learning how to walk, learning how to talk, learning how to crawl, potty training, all these different things. These aren't necessarily things that would always cause a setback with your sleep, but obviously your baby's entire life is mirrored and facilitated through where he's holding developmentally. So oftentimes that has a correlation, A, with his brain development because it's growing at such rapid paces and he's learning and processing the world around him, but even more so, it's a complete technical situation here. A baby that once was totally comfortable sleeping on their stomach suddenly learns how to flip onto their back. Oh my gosh, they're like a turtle stuck on their shell. How do you get back? Or a baby learns how to stand up but can't necessarily get back down. And oh gosh, I really do want to go to sleep, but I don't know how to do this. Or even if it is something like potty training with a toddler. All these things affect their sleep because nothing is compartmentalized to one small issue. I always say everything is a rolling cycle. And that's not just sleep related, okay? Yes, days affect nights, which affect the following days, as I always tell you, but it's also very critical to understand habits and behavior also are all encompassing, right? Your child's emotions, your child's general behavior, your child's eating, and all of those things, which obviously correspond with milestones. Now, when they occur, people get very nervous. Either you have a child that is sleeping awesome, sleeping through the night, taking great naps, and suddenly you see there's this major regression and suddenly you feel stuck because my baby used to sleep through the night, my baby used to be on a great routine, but now suddenly, he's climbing out of his crib and I can't get him to stay put, or whatever the case may be. It doesn't mean that it's not fixable. If your child has a solid baseline with their sleep, it's just a matter of getting back to it. There's a lot that you can do to help your child reframe his sleep and go back to those old habits without suddenly throwing in the towel and saying that you just have to be destined to having a rough sleeper, okay? And we're going to talk about different ideas you can do for that. If any of you, by the way, watching have questions while we're doing this, just hit me up in the comments, okay? Sandra asked an awesome question, and this is actually the next part of what we were going to run through here. What ages from newborn, let's say, to 2-year-old, which is the absolute high concentration of development, Can you expect regressions? This might help us realize that things may just be a glitch. So, Sandra, it's not a glitch when it happens, but it's to be expected. But when you know it's going to be happening, you have a little bit of a toolbox handy so you're not necessarily as thrown off. So I'm first just going to give a little brief run through of the usual sleep regressions that arise. And these are all approximate, they're all averages. Every baby and every child is their own universe and might not necessarily fall under these categories. But so you just have an idea as things arise, okay? There is a very common, from newborn, the first few months, you're just working on developing healthy habits. You can do a lot to get a newborn sleeping 6 to 8 hours straight. Whether you do or you don't. As your baby approaches 4 months, that is the big 4-month sleep regression that everyone knows about. I talked about it a lot in the sleep regressions video. If you haven't watched that, go back and look at it. That's the first one to look out for. Okay, I'm not going to talk about the whys and hows of the individual regressions because I talked about it already in a previous video, so go check it out. 4 months. And that's excluding all the regular, little sleep growth spurts that happen, because there is a typical one that happens around 3 weeks, around 6 weeks, but every baby's very different depending on, how much they're eating, their weight gain, and how many calories that they are having during the day. After that, typically speaking, it's age, not necessarily geared towards age as much as it is towards developmentally where your baby is holding. Separation anxiety is a big one. Happens usually within the 7 to 9 month window is a peak when your child actually has real separation anxiety. And what separation anxiety means is they're not that they're not smart enough, but they can't cognitively really integrate the idea of when you leave the room, you still exist. So in their mind, when they don't see you, you're no longer a part of this world. And that's frightening for them because you are their mother, their source of comfort, their source of trust, everything. So when they don't see you, they get frantic, wondering if you're ever going to return, because they don't understand that you're simply in the other room out of visual line, okay? So that's a big one. There's a lot of sleep hurdles and setbacks that happen during this developmental period because separation anxiety is real, okay? And babies need to really develop that trust until they're at that place where they can really cognitively understand you're there, but you still exist and you're going to come back, okay? That's a major one. Past that, those are just the regular milestones of, like I said, flipping over from back to tummy usually happens around the 3 to 5 month mark, right? Learning how to sit up, learning how to stand up, can't get back down. All these other things I told you. So it really depends, Sandra, on your child, but the most common ones to keep your eyes out for are the 4-month sleep regression, having separation anxiety between 7 to 9 months typically, and then just the walking, talking, crawling, potty training, all those fun things that happen, okay? And aside from growth spurts. So let's go through, Aubrey asked that question and Risa wanted to know as well, okay? So it's hard to obviously outline from start to finish what that will be because it's so dependent on your child's age. Not your age, excuse me. So dependent on your child's age, but at what age they're going to do that depends on how rapidly your child's developing and their brain and their size and everything. So those are the milestones mainly to look out for. Now, Sandra asked a separate question, are good daytime naps linked to good nighttime sleeping? Yes, 100%. Go ahead and watch our nap fighting. Watch all those videos we had. Hands down, Aubrey and I talk about it all the time here, who's my right-hand lady over here in this group. She's awesome. Day sleep affects night sleep, and the more positively you can have your days intact, the better it's going to help with night sleep. And I want to tell you, this actually correlates directly with setbacks and these milestones, because even if you're having a major setback with sleep due to any one of these developmental milestones that can happen, or a regression even, or even sickness, if you can keep your daytime sleep intact with your child, that is going to keep the consistent baseline for nights. I cannot stress that enough. You don't have to throw in the towel. You obviously have to have the wherewithal and the energy to do that, but if you can keep the days with a good routine, good length, good duration, obviously completely mirroring what your child's sleep needs are, you're going to ensure that something that happens will just slightly throw you off instead of being completely uprooted, okay? Aubrey has a question. I have a hard time deciding if it's teething, sickness, sleep regression. I also have a hard time knowing when to be understanding and when to be more firm. This is an awesome question. And Kelly, you said you second that. This is a great question, Aubrey. I can always count on you to ask the awesome questions. All of you do. But Aubrey and I are in touch a lot. So yes, it's hard to know at the end of the day. At the end of the day, it really boils down to you knowing your child and using your motherly intuition. And we're not always right. We just do our best with everything else that we're doing. I will tell you though, Aubrey, obviously teething, I'll use it as an example, or sickness, because those are more technical. If your baby is crying all day, drooling, has a fever, has all the, dirty, gross diapers or a rash, all these different symptoms that arise from teething, during the day, it's safe to say that your baby is equally as uncomfortable during the night, right? Or if you have a baby that has a fever or just got shots and they're uncomfortable and not doing well during the day, it's safe to say that they're feeling the same way in the night. Or if your child is learning how to crawl, learn all these different things, obviously that's going to affect their night's sleep. So that's when you know it's definitely due to something, because it doesn't just happen that your baby is fine all day, happy-go-lucky, things are great, and suddenly between 6:59 and 7 p.m. when you put your baby in their crib, they're in ravenous, horrible pain, or ravenously hungry, or suddenly a tooth just popped through and they're so uncomfortable, or you know what I'm saying? Or they peak like a crazy high fever within that 30-second mark. So you can gauge whether or not a milestone or sickness or teething are happening really just based on your baby's behavior. But there is room for you to obviously use your judgment. You know your child's cries. You know when it's just kind of calling out to you, feeling upset, or versus real pain or real stress or anxiety or nervousness or tension or disruption or discomfort. You always have to use your judgment. When in doubt, of course, unless you're in the brinks of actually sleep training, which we'll talk about in another video, always check on your child, right? Our job as a parent here is to be there for our child emotionally and let them know that we are there for them to help them. But at the same time, you want to make sure that it doesn't cause a regression. What do I mean by that? We talked about this in the regressions video. Let's say, due to all these milestones and all these different things, a baby is waking up multiple times throughout the night when they used to sleep through the night, or something is off and you're not really sure why they're crying. So you go in and you see, oh, they're really fine. They're just, needing a little bit of help flipping over or needing a little bit of help getting back down. But when something that happens randomly once every few nights suddenly turns into once a week, 2 times a week, nightly, 2 times a night, 3 times a night, that's when you have to start cracking down and saying, listen, what used to be kind of a random occurrence is now starting to turn into an actual consistent pattern. That's when it's time to do something about it, because it's only going to regress further. Okay, that's when you have to be understanding, balancing, being firm, right? It's your judgment call on your part, and you have to decide if you feel that things are going backwards in a negative place with your sleep. Okay, I hope that answers your question. Lauren, you are probably creating terrible habits. Oh no, don't worry. I just messaged you actually a few minutes ago to talk about some of the things you've been discussing here in the group. So hopefully I'll be able to lead you in the right direction a little. We can hash it out together. Okay, Ashley's question. My second baby is only 7 weeks. Congrats on that, by the way, but sleeping quite well now. She goes down at 8 p.m. and only wakes up once, and wakes up for the day between 7 and 8 a.m. My first was never a good sleeper until this group, which we're so happy we helped you. So I'm absolutely terrified this will change. What is the likelihood of him starting to wake up more if he does not hit the setbacks and regressions and he gains milestones? How do I get him back on track when these milestones happen? Okay, that's your first part of your question. So I hope this helps you. Knowledge is power, right? When you know a sleep regression might be happening because you see your baby starting to develop in certain ways, or you're going through a growth spurt, or things are in an off place, then obviously preventative measures, right? Make sure you set things up from the ground up that your baby's sleep won't get totally disrupted, right? You want to make sure you could do whatever you can to keep that daytime sleep intact. Use your judgment to make sure you're more gentle, but make sure regression doesn't happen all the way by allowing all the setbacks to happen. If you have a really good setup already with your baby's sleep, Ashley, you just want to always fall back on that as a baseline, because otherwise that's when these milestones will throw your sleep off. And if you're nervous about that, just make a game plan of action. I can help you if you want. We can hash it out a little bit together. Make a game plan in terms of what you're going to do to make sure when those milestones happen, you don't regress. And what I mean by that is, we cannot help milestones. We want them to happen. We want our children to develop and grow. But you have to do everything under your power to make sure that milestone doesn't cause a regression. Aubrey mentioned this the other day in posting, answering someone's question in here, because her and I had discussed this. For example, Aubrey, and I hope it's okay I use you as an example, and I think you just posted, I'm going to go in and answer you soon. Your baby was standing up in his crib. And he didn't know how to get back down, right? So what did we discuss? During the day, practicing multiple times, 5, 15, 20, 30 times, as many opportunities as you have, helping your little guy plop back down on the floor. It's not going to be graceful. He's going to just kind of plop down on his bottom, but doing whatever you can to help him learn that, because it's muscle memory, doing it over and over and over to the point where after 3-4 days of consistently helping him plop back down, it's going to become a little bit more second nature, so he's not going to be as disturbed when he's in his crib, because he'll remember through having done this action multiple times throughout the day when he was awake, you just pop back down. Same thing with rolling over. Same thing with crawling. Crib climbing is another story. We've talked about this before. We did a live on it. Maybe we'll revisit it. But at the end of the day, it's about taking action and initiative to helping your child get over this milestone and help them get through it so it doesn't affect their sleep negatively. Okay? Hope that makes sense. Second part of your question, Ashley, is we are currently swaddling at night. I'm scared to transition from the swaddle. So watch the video we did on swaddling, Ashley. You don't need to do it yet. Your baby's little, but as your baby is starting to get closer to 3 months, you don't want to wait too long, because if you wait too long to transition out of the swaddle, that could cause a further sleep regression, because your baby is not going to know what to do with his arms. The earlier the better, and that's why I like to do it slowly with the steps that I outline in that video. Okay? Liat, how are you? Okay. Your 18-month-old, who I know very well, was sleeping from 7:30 to 5-ish. He even made it to 6 a.m. one day. That's a late night for him. That's a late morning for him, Liat. Okay. Until a week ago. That's when we went to the zoo and he missed a nap. He was too excited to sleep while we were there. He got super overtired and has been waking up at 4 or 4:30. Oh my goodness. 4:30 is not the morning. That is the middle of the night. Okay. We leave him to cry, and he just cries for half an hour and doesn't go back to sleep. If we go in to try to calm him, he's hysterical until we pick him up. Either way, he's up and cranky for the day. Wow. Well, we know, and I know, your son is a creature of habit. He is like a consistent clockwork child. Not all kids are like this, but as you see, the switch turned off with overtiredness, and now he's falling into a new pattern and going down a new road of starting this. So we have to nip it in the bud. This is not a milestone or a setback, but this could turn into a sleep regression. Okay, so Liat, what I want you to do is actually, I'm curious if he's still taking that one nap. I think you just have him taking one nap or still 2 naps. I have to recall because I don't have everything in front of me of what you're doing. But the key is really a combination of behavior at this point, of teaching him that he's safe, that he's okay in the mornings, and that, you know, he doesn't need your comfort to go back to sleep, because you know he knows how to sleep through the night, versus actually making sure his days are set up well. So Liat, you should come to our call. We're having this Thursday. Liat's a past client of mine that we have worked with, but we're doing our mom's mastermind call this Thursday. Please come. We'll talk about this in depth so I can ask you all the questions I want. But for anyone else who is suffering from this issue, when a child is waking up early in those hours, they're clearly still overtired. I know Liat's baby sleeping from 7:30 to 5 or 7:30 to 4 clearly is not enough sleep for him. But you don't want to fall into the pattern of compensating for lost night sleep by offering more day sleep, because then it's going to fall into this vicious cycle. So oftentimes what we have to do is reconfigure the day sleep, meaning naps, sometimes bumping around bedtime, while working on the behavior aspect of the early morning rising. So Liat, come to that call because I have some clarifying questions I want to ask you before outlining for you what to do. Melissa, yes, you like this question. Anytime we are out or something and she misses or shortens her nap, it seems to haunt us for a few days. So Liat's issue, I'm concerned, might be more than just a few days, because I know her child very well. I'm nervous it will actually turn into a full-fledged regression that will last weeks. But Melissa, if you miss a nap and it haunts you for a few days and your child starts to get more overtired, the key is just to get back on your sleep horse. Make sure next morning starts the day off the same time. Still gets the nap the same time. Bedtime is still the same. Whatever habits you have set up. Your baby's falling asleep on their own, let them continue to fall asleep on your own. Don't move backwards because something that was thrown off. Don't suddenly let your baby sleep until 10 or 11 a.m. for a few days and let the naps be haphazard and go to them a bunch of times in the middle of the night if that's not what you normally do, because that's what's going to turn a day or two just being off into backwards and into a full-fledged bad place with your baby's sleep. So if your daughter, Melissa, has issues every time you miss a nap, that's okay. That's life, right? We can't always lock ourselves in our house for 20 years so our kids will sleep. There's errands. There's things to go to. There's doctor's appointments. But you just know, listen, I'll have to bump bedtime to be a little earlier tonight, or tomorrow I'm going to get right back on track. And that's what will ensure it's just a day or two instead of weeks and weeks and weeks of being thrown off. All right, Melissa asks another question. Just this week, we hit the milestone of our daughter standing in her crib. We just talked about this. It hasn't affected her sleeping too much yet, but she can't get herself down, so I'm in there to lay her back down. Is it okay to do? For how long should you do this? I don't want to start bad sleep habits, but if you leave her, she gets upset. It's hard to get her back to sleep. So yes, Melissa, that's exactly what I just told Aubrey to do. Practice that muscle memory during the day of plopping down on her bottom over and over and over and over. Yes, throughout the process while she's learning, you do have to go in and help her. But as she gets better during the day, you help her less and less and less in the nights till it evens out. No milestone should throw off any child's sleep longer than a few days, maybe 4 or 5. Because if you make it your job to make sure that you're helping your child get through this, master the skill, while helping them in the transitional period, they're going to get over the hump really easily. Yeah, exactly. Laying down, learning faster in their crib, like Aubrey suggests. So that's that. Now, I know a few of you asked some other questions in here. Let's see if I can just move this over to see my screen. We have a minute or two. Usually, I only answer questions that are in the thread, but I told some of you that I would answer your other questions if there was time. So I don't know if you are here, Lynn or Lauren or Autumn, who just answered the question. Lauren asked, how can I get my baby to nap? And if any of you have questions on actual milestones who are watching, just write it in the comments and we'll talk about it, because that's obviously what this is about. Lauren asked how to get her baby to nap without feeding to sleep. That is a very complex question for sure. It's all about getting rid of that sleep dependency. Watch the video we did on dependencies and sleep, or tag me in a question or a post and we'll start talking about that a little bit. There's a lot you can do, but there's a lot more beneath the surface. People think sleep training is the answer. It's a piece of the big puzzle of sleep and what to do. Because if you just try to put a Band-Aid on the problem and teach your child to sleep without really taking a bird's eye view on the whole sleep, how much sleep your child's getting, what naps look like, is your child overtired, what's appropriate for their behavior, you're just going to get frustrated and burnt out and not get anywhere with their sleep, which is the whole purpose of why I created this group, because I saw everyone talking about sleep train, do this. But that's, first of all, not the method that I use when I work with the families that I help, and it's definitely not the smartest way to go about it, because you want to make sure you nip things in the bud, build a foundation, and work up. Okay, so watch those videos and let me know what questions you have. Lauren, I just messaged. We're going to be talking. Lynn wants to know, same question, how to break sleep associations and what to do about sleep regressions. We did a video specifically on sleep regressions, which overlaps a little bit with these milestones here. Go check that out. And Autumn has a question. I will message you later. Okay, just to see, because I see this is a little bit longer. Do any of you watching now have any more questions about developmental milestones and sleep setbacks and regressions and how they happen and why they happen and what to do? It's a matter of, obviously, just to summarize this whole little talk we had, it's a matter of taking into account how old your child is, balanced with what that setback is and what the milestone is. Like Aubrey asked, is it because of teething sickness? Is it because of a developmental milestone of crawling or standing up or climbing out or potty training? What can you do in the interim to help your child master this milestone, whatever it is, and still help them transition in the process, okay? Balancing your own intuition while still making sure you're being there for your child to help them, while still making sure at the same time you're getting over the hump so a major sleep regression doesn't happen, okay? For those of you who are interested in discussing this more in detail, I'm happy to hop on a call with you. I'd love to discuss your sleep, hear more about you and what you are currently going through, offer you some advice and see what that is, and just hopefully lead you in the right direction, even if we're not necessarily a good fit to work together. My sleep groups are running now. We have a few more spots still left, so I will post the link to schedule a chat with me as soon as this live video is done. No one else is asking questions here, which is okay. And if you want to hop on a call with me, set up a time. We can run through your sleep, see what's going on, and even, like I said, even if we're not a good fit to work together, at least I can point you in the right direction to make sure that you get in a good place with your sleep. So have a great Wednesday. I hope to talk to some of you soon who want to hear a little bit more about how you can get that sleep back in your home, and talk to you later.